In the Mood for Love is a film released in Hong Kong in 2000 and directed by Wong Kar-wai. When it was released, there were many films about Shanghainese made in Hong Kong and Asia. Wong disliked those films as a Shanghainese director because of their inaccuracy. Due to this, the director said he wanted to, quote, make something which is accurate, and I want to show people what is really this Shanghainese communities are. Wong was born July 17, 1958 in Hong Kong. When he was 5, his family relocated to British-ruled Hong Kong. As a child, his mother often took him to the cinema, which cultivated his interest in film. His upbringing and experience in Hong Kong are influential to this film. As a Hong Kong second-wave filmmaker, his films are often bold, experimental, and have stylized cinematography and editing. The movie forms the second part of an informal trilogy. The first part was Days of Being Wild, released in 1990, and the last part was 2046, released in 2004. This particular romantic film by him is about a man named Chow Mo-wan and a woman, Su Lai-zin, whose spouses' infidelity with each other leads to them developing a friendship and an emotional affair. Within the entire film, the extract is the climax of the film, where Chow finally acts upon his feelings and offers Su an opportunity for them to be together. Romance films typically show the bliss and beauty of falling in love. I chose this extract because Wong shows the darker and ugly side of it. It best emphasizes the theme, which is the secretive and repressive nature of falling in love when in an affair. In regards to this, Wong says, the whole thing is about the time and the period, and also how people treat this affair over the years. They keep it as a secret, and I think secret will be the main point of this story. The film's setting takes place in Hong Kong during the 1960s. Wong states in an interview, it's very special in the history of Hong Kong, because it is right after 1949, and a lot of people from China are living in Hong Kong, and they still have their dreams about their lives back in China. Later, he adds, I'm from that background, and I want to make a film like this, and I want to recreate that mood. For this reason, the film specifically targeted Chinese from Hong Kong. Wong chose two of Hong Kong's greatest superstars to be in this film. In regards to Maggie Cheung, he says, she has a certain air and qualities which definitely belonging to that period. The look, the air, the move, she got everything. In the final moments of the extract, the camera jump cuts to Su sitting in the hotel room. The jump cut reveals she just barely missed him. The absence of sound represents the absence of him and his love. The close-up of Su's face as a lone tear falls down her face emphasizes the release of her repressed emotions, those considered shameful in society's eyes. A recurring motif in the film are the long body-hugging Chung Sam gowns she wears as in the shop, which gracefully displays his sensuous figure. The Chung Sam gown was a symbol of modern Chinese women. It gained popularity in Hong Kong after 1949 when Shanghainese immigrants brought back their fashion with them. This makes her an ideal personification of civilized sensibility. The gowns dictate the way she moves, which represents the repression of her desire. A radio in the background plays Full Bloom by Zhao. In the 1960s in Hong Kong, many people didn't own TVs, they had radios instead. The camera pans between Su as she sits in the doorway of her kitchen and Chow as he sits in his. The panning displays the parallels between the two. The medium shot of them sitting alone in the hallway emphasizes their loneliness, despite living in an apartment full of tenants. Only the wall between them separates them, representing the threat of gossip and the surveillance of community and neighbors, which keeps them from being together. Like many shots in the film, there are many frames within frame. Su and Chow are framed by rectangles of the film in similar internal shapes as well as constant obstruction in the foreground. In regards to the double framing, Wong says, we always wanted something in front of the camera because we wanted to create a feeling that the audience becomes one of the neighbors. They always observe these two people. This constant observance leads to the secretive nature of their relationship and the facade they put on. This is emphasized by their cramped rooms and their limited perspective. The extract has the feeling of always putting up a good front and of being on guard against disappointing people. This is because in 1962, Hong Kong was very overcrowded, so people rented out rooms in their apartments to middle-class couples as Su and Chow do. Because of this, the old folks watch the younger ones, like hawks, with culturally ordained authority, which makes appearances important. This is why most of Sue and Chow's interactions are isolated in corridors, tiny rooms, restaurants, offices, and street corners. The lack of privacy is a generic characteristic of Chinese society. For this reason, the two protagonists can only express their feelings through the polite social gestures done in a somewhat constricted environment. Maintaining appearances and decorum is an important concern for social survival. The closed frames show how society's marital expectations and watching eyes rob them of their ability to move and act freely. Like the entire film, each scene in the extract is shot in one of the limited amounts of locations, such as the street, the apartment, and the hotel room. Each is filmed from the same angle, which leads to experience the effect of returning again and again to those same things, which, when isolated against the background, show that things are changing, like the inner lives of the main characters. This excerpt has many recurring motifs because Wong says he wanted to show the film in a repetitive way. Like, we repeat the music, the angle of the location, always a clock, always a corridor, always a staircase, because I want to show nothing changes except the emotions of these two persons. For example, he repeatedly included Latin music in the film because he says the Latin music in the film was very popular in Hong Kong at that time, and he later adds, this is the sound of that period. The song Quizás, Quizás, Quizás by Nat Cole is a recurring motif in the film. It plays as Chow waits in the room for Sue. It creates a sad and desperate mood. The song, which is translated maybe, 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 reflects Chow's current situation. He wants a definite answer to his questions from Sue, yet all he does is waste time thinking, which leaves him desperate. The musical repetition communicates what is said and what cannot be expressed orally. To the reflection of a mirror is a close-up of Mr. Chow's face, which emphasizes his sadness and forlorn face. A mirror can only show the truth, even if one does not like it. By admitting his love for Sue and asking her to come to Singapore with him, the feelings and emotions they have been denying and the facade they have been put on are crumbling. The mirror shows his disappointment, and when he stops waiting and turns off all the lights of the hotel room, it symbolizes how he has lost all hope of her coming and giving him an answer. Mr. Chow is always shown with his gelled hair and wearing immaculate bourgeois clothes, which represents his repressed emotions similar to Sue's. Deep colors such as the reds, yellows, browns, and deep shadows saturate the extract. Both Sue and Chow are surrounded by red, especially, which represents the intensity of their love and passion. Yet these emotions can only surface or present themselves in the deep shadows where they must stay. The two shot of them from behind the sit in the taxi creates a feeling of observance. The jump cut of him holding and caressing her hand is full of shadows and has little lighting. The gesture can only be done in the darkness, hidden from society's eyes. The close-up of their intertwined hand emphasizes his wedding ring and represents the never-ending commitment they both made to their spouses. They never take off their rings, although they are aware that their spouses are cheating and have broken this commitment. Ironically, the close proximity and intertwined hands show them following a similar path. Similar to the entire film, this extract contains little dialogue. The restriction of language echoes the restriction of action which plagues Sue and Chow since they are constantly under surveillance. In the background plays Yumaji's theme, a motive expressing their own loneliness and desire, yet as the motif of the clock shows, love has not come at the right time for them. Similar to his other films, In the Mood for Love contains Wong's trademark effects which are alienation and isolation enhanced by the sentimental soundtrack music and the short depth of focus interior cinematography. Although the production faced difficulty finding investors, it was successful as shown by making 8,663,227 Hong Kong dollars domestically. Internationally, its box office gross was over 12 million. In the Mood for Love showed its success beyond the numbers. In September 2000, an article written by Elvis Mitchell Walker in the New York Times described it as the most breathtakingly gorgeous film of the year, busy with the nose against the glass romantic spirit that has been missing from cinema forever. Then in November 2015, an article written by Vikram Murthy in IndieWire described it as sensual and devastating in equal measure, and added captures the loneliness of unfulfilled desire better than almost any other film of the 2000s. Its success can be also contributed to containing Wong's signatures, which also satisfy generic expectations. Like any other romance film, the protagonist yearns for romance, which eventually comes, but unlike other films within the genre, it comes at the wrong time, and it is developed not through dialogue, but subtle touches, glances, in the right mood.